Hello everyone, welcome back to ENR 3 car project tutorial videos. So we'll be jumping into the car assemblies today. So in the past few weeks, we've been creating parts, creating drawings, and now we'll transition to creating assemblies and sub-assemblies from the parts we have created in the past. Again, it's pretty straightforward. It's basically putting two parts or more in one assembly or sub-assembly, and then basically making sure you have the right mates to fully define that sub-assembly or assembly. So in today's video, we'll be creating the first sub-assembly, which is the front wheel assembly, which consists of the wheel, the shoulder screw, and the wheel mount. So as you can see, we have the screw, which has that part number, the 9734 5A 537. And it's a quarter diameter by 1.5 length shoulder screw, quantity 1. Right, so this is our bill of materials for this assembly or sub-assembly. We also have the wheel mount right here, which is balloon 2, and we'll get to this later, where we actually create the assembly drawing and generate bill of materials. And then we have the wheel, which is the 2.5-inch diameter Delrin. In this case, it's the front wheel. So let's jump right in. So I have SolidWorks open. So we've been going to File, New, and creating parts or drawings, right? Creating drawings using our template, the MCC inch drawing, or whatever you have called it. In this case, we're going to start creating, start with an assembly template, or if you go to Novus, it's right here, assembly. So make sure we have that selected. So again, it's a 3D arrangement of parts and or other assemblies again. So an assembly can consist of parts and sub-assemblies. So our main chassis assembly later on is going to have the chassis, which we're going to make everything to, and then some sub-assemblies that we're actually going to import, which they're the ones that we're going to be creating right now. So I'm going to click OK, right? So I'm going to start with an assembly. And the first thing it's asking me to do is to insert the first part, right? Select the component to insert, then place it in the graphics area or hit OK to locate it at the origin. So that's one important thing to note out, right? So you make sure that your first part is mated to the origin. There's two ways you can do this. So I'm just gonna actually let's leave that for now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to View, Display. Actually, let's do. I want to do it from here, or I'm trying to think what's the best way to go about this. So let's actually, if I go to so if I go to hide and show, I guess this is a good way to do this. So if I go to hide and show, I want to show my origin for the assembly. And now if I browse, let's say I want to start with, again, let's import the wheel mount first. So if I go to car parts, I have my wheel mount, car parts 2, right? And right here, there's two different things I can do, right? I can start with whatever configuration I want from here, or I can change that after I've already imported that part. So in this case, I already know that I want to use the front, so I'm just going to change that to front. No worries if you forget to do that, you can always change it later on. I'm going to click Open. Right now, it's floating mid-air, so you definitely don't want it to do that, right? You want your first part that's driving the overall assembly to be fixed. So there's two ways you can do this, right? If I get close to the origin, I get this symbol that tells me that my origin is coincident to that origin, right? If I get close, it's automatically, again, it's like magnetic mate. It's gonna grab to that origin, and it shows that simple that the two origins are coincident to each other. The second thing I can do, if I actually just click away and just click OK, it automatically mates it to that origin. What you don't want to do is click anywhere, right? If I click right here, it's literally floating mid-air. So you don't want to do that. So you want to make sure it's either you get close to the mate or you just click OK. And again, another way you can do this is that you have this configuration command here. So we want to use the front. Right, so if I click away, it automatically, right, so I have the part right here. If I click away, it automatically mates it to the origin. And I want to start with my front configuration. So this tells me that the part is fixed. That's what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to View. I'm just going to hide my origin, right? I know this part is fixed. Switch to plain white. I don't know if that's easier to see. Just leave it like this. The next thing we want to do is, right, so we have one part imported and it's fixed at the origin. What I want to do next is I want to import my second part. So if I go to Insert Component, again, this will open up. And in this case, again, if I go back, right, I'm importing my wheel. So if I go to wheels, same thing with wheels. The default configuration is the last configuration you saved the part with. So right here it's set to rear. I'm just gonna, in this case, I'm using the front configuration. So I'm gonna click open. And in this case, I can mate this anywhere. Right, so I have two different parts floating midair. So I can't move this one, but I can move this one. The reason is this part is not mated, right? You get this minus sign. This part is fixed. It's fully defined. So if I hold my right click and hold down, I can rotate that part. If I hold down the left click, I can move that part. Again, or you can also mate it. There's different ways you can literally just start mating the part, regardless of where it's located. I usually try to get it close to where I want it, and then start mating that part. So in this case, I'm going to start mating, right? So I have, I'm going to start with this. So I can do this, boss over the hole, right? I want that to be concentric to that hole, right? Does that make sense? I want those two holes to line up with respect to the center. If I click this right here, those two holes are concentric. If I look at it from this way, right, it's right in the center, and that's exactly what I want. Look at it from the top view. So I'm going to click OK. Now I can move it left and right. I mean, it's rotating about that axis, right? So if it's an infinitely long axis. So it rotates about that point, but I can move it left and right, which is not correct, right? So my second mate is going to be between these two faces. So I want to select the left or my rear face and my front face on the wheel mount. And I want to add a coincident mate, right? So I want those two faces to be coincident. I can always, right, if I add a coincident, I can always do a distance mate. So if you want that face to be, let's say, in this case, 2 inches away from that face, you can do that, and that will fully define it. But we don't want that. We want it to be coincident to that face. So I'm going to click OK. Again, I'm going to exit out of that. So it's still rotating, so that means it's not fully fixed, but we really don't care about that because a wheel is supposed to rotate around one axis, right? So we can lock that up. I'll show you that in a second, right? So if you want that to be fully defined and you don't want it to rotate, so if let's say I open up these two, and I'm just gonna mate the two planes. So let's say I want to mate my, in this case, my top plane with my top plane here. I'm gonna click mate. So if I hold the control key, right, I can actually do it from the tree. If I click top plane here, hold down the control key, click top plane, this short menu shows up, and I click mate. I can add a coincident mate. And that minus sign disappears, right? It's fully defined. It's fixed. I can't rotate it. I can't move it. I can't push it left and right. It's fully fixed. And SolidWorks likes everything to be fully defined and fixed, but again, it's more of a preference thing. I like if something actually moves in real life, I kind of like to have that replicated in the software. So I'm just gonna, you can always go in and suppress that mate. Right now, this minus sign comes back, which means it's not fully defined. But again, I don't know if you can see, I can rotate around the axis. The last thing I want to do, right? So I have my shoulder screw, and that's 97345A37. So I'm going to insert component. In my car project, I have my vendor parts, right? There's a folder on the M drive. So you should have copied that folder and placed it on your flash drive or whatever your work area is. And I'm just going to access that part from the vendor parts. So we have, let's see, I have, so it's a screw. And in this case, it's going to be the MC 97345, which is, I believe it's this one, MC 97345A 537. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to insert it. Again, it's floating midair, right? I want to do the same thing. So again, what's the best mate to go about mating these two circles? Again, anytime we have a circular mate, the best thing to use is concentric, depending on, most likely it's going to be concentric mate with circles. Right, so I'm going to mate that face, and SolidWorks will automatically knows it's a circular face with that face. I can always, right, so this is the wrong direction. I'm just going to click this flip mate alignment, right? So that's, you can do it from here also. So this is the way I want it. I'm going to click OK. Right now, if you can guess, right? I can take that out. I can rotate it. Rotate that, right? And I can move it left in or in and out. So let's define that. So again, just like we've done here, I'm gonna add another mate between this face and that face. It's going to be a coincident mate. Going to click OK. And we're pretty much done with our first assembly. So one thing, again, right? So this is, I can always unsuppress that. And let's add another mate to fully define that. So I can go in. Let's say I have my right plane right here, and I'm gonna add it to the, this case is gonna be my top plane. I'm gonna mate these two to be coincident mate, click OK. Everything is fully defined. I can't rotate the wheel nor the screw. This is fixed, right? I can't move it. And we are all set with our first assembly. So one thing before we're done with this video, I'm just gonna generate an exploded view. So right here, I have my exploded view command. So I'm gonna click on it. And let's generate. So I wanna with exploded view, you basically pick whatever part you want and you explode that in space. So I wanna select that one, right? And you can do it by settings, or I can literally just drag out wherever I want that dimension to be. Just roughly in space. So let's say I want it right here. So it tells me my explode step 1 is that one. Another way is if I click this one, now I can move that somewhere here. If I take that back, that's still my step 2. So that seems somewhat of what I want it to look like. Again, if we compare it to our drawing, it doesn't have to be, right? We did not call out or specify the distance, but if you want, you can. So I'm gonna click OK. What I want to do is add exploded lines, right? That shows it here. That shows that this screw goes into the wheel and the wheel mount, right? All 3 are concentric. So if I go to exploded view, I have this drop-down menu, and there's an explode line sketch. And right here it tells me items to connect. Again, it's pretty straightforward process. So when I want to start here, I want to start from this edge. Actually, since we want it to end right here and now go through, I'm going to click on, sorry, not the face. I want to grab the edge. I'm going to click on the edge. So you can go to here and then go to this point, but again, we kind of know it's going to go through. So I'm going to go zoom in, and I'm going to select this edge. Right, and it's telling me that this is an exploded line going through all 3 parts, right? Connecting the 3 parts. I'm going to click OK, and I have my exploded line. If I jump to, let's do configuration, I have my exploded view. And I can animate collapse, right? I can collapse it. So this is what it looks like collapsed. Let's close that out. Let's do animate explode. Right? Perfect. And you can save that file. If you want save animation, you can save it on your computer. We don't need these animations at this point, but we actually will end up creating an animation later on. Let's do, we can animate collapse. And we are all set with our first assembly. So you can go to File, Save As. Before you do that, make sure your file properties is all filled out, right? So in the author, make sure you have your name. Let's do in custom, I'm going to do description. And for this one, I'm going to do wheel, shoulder, screw, and wheel mount. Okay. And I'm going to go File, Save As. Somewhere, let's go to desktop. I have my car project. Let's put it somewhere here. Again, wherever you have your car project video, make sure it's saved there. So I have car assemblies, front wheel assembly. I'm just going to name that front wheel assembly. All right, and it has the description here. And I'm going to click Save. We're all set. Thank you for watching.